All right, it's really windy today, so I've come here to Maitland, which was New South Wales' second largest capital after Sydney. Incredible now, it's nothing. It's right on the inland waterways of the Hunter River, so all the food and crops and everything else in the early days would come through here. But part of the dark history of all of Australia is a place like here, the Alma Hotel. Now this is where they had baby farming, and very poor women who were pregnant single mums were so poor that they'd have to farm out their babies to be looked after while they went and had other jobs for any money they could. A lot of kids died in the care homes here, where they weren't really care homes. They were malnourished. Women would take the money, or men would take the money, pretend to look after the babies, and their poor babies would be killed. It's also where Caroline Chisholm set up, and I'm going to go there next because that's why I've come here to Maitland. Well, it's crazy with direct trains to Sydney as well. Maitland, which is like a place that just stopped in time. I'm trying to hide from the wind. But Caroline Chisholm, probably one of the most famous females ever to be in Australia, pioneer of a whole lot of just pioneering rights, really. There's not a single plaque to her here, and she's on the $5 bill of Australia. A complete shame. Been hunting around looking for a house that's been knocked down, I think, or maybe relocated, but there's nothing to say that. Anyway, those who don't know Caroline Chisholm, she came out here for 7 years. Her husband's from India. Both of them supported the fact that there were a lot of women turning up in the settlement here in the early 1840s without jobs, without any money, and they would land and they'd come to places like this, Maitland, the second largest capital city in New South Wales after Sydney, and they would end up on the streets working as prostitutes with no money, and it was horrible. And a lot of homelessness, and so she took it amongst herself without taking any money from churches or big donors. She wanted to be completely independent. Over the course of 7 years, she pioneered, saved about 11,000 people, took people out of their places like the baby farming areas, baby factories that we saw, and really supported that. And put changed the Act and Parliament here in Australia to really look after people coming to the colonies. She then went back to England, and when she was in England, she let's get out of these people's way. When she went back to England, she also pioneered that convicts' wives and pretty much wives, but also their partners and their families should be relocated to Australia for free. And she changed that so a whole lot of families, after the convicts were released, their families could come and join them here. She also managed to get half-price fares for people coming out, that they would pay half price, and she got a whole lot of charity to support for that. And then after 2 years of working here, they could pay off their fare. That encouraged people to get out of the slums of England that was there before. She went round, and she got, in her 7 years, she went round Australia. Went around New South Wales, and in New South Wales she got a whole lot of pioneering letters from people with their stories, gathered those together and put those into a book and used those to encourage people to leave the slums of England and come and be a pioneering settler here in Australia. And so powerful was she that Charles Dickens made a character out of her in one of his books, but also he helped publish her works or the stories of these free settlers. Then she went down to Melbourne on another trip, and she saw all the gold rushes towards must have been 1860s, I guess, and she saw that the families were coming up to join their mining husbands, but there was no accommodation between effectively Ballarat and Bendigo and Castlemaine, these areas, Kyneton, and the city. And so she got the government to pay for every day to put shelters for families so that they could have a shelter and food rather than living rough in the bush and all the rubbish that collected. She also finally, one of the things, which are many things she did in a very short time, is she realized a lot of the immigrants coming out to Australia didn't have much money, and they were living in these terrible boats. So she was the person that put together the first act of passenger ferries and the minimum standard of quality on a passenger ferry. So Caroline Chisholm, hugely influential in Australia, came from this dead town now of Maitland, once New South Wales' second largest town on this huge Hunter River. Unfortunately I couldn't find a statue, a plaque or anything to her. A real sad indictment, not just on Maitland and the government here and the politics here, but also on Australia as a whole, that this pioneering female figure at that over 200 years ago, strong lady, we're not even respecting her here. She's good enough to be on a $5 bill. She's not good enough to have any plaque here in her hometown where she did it all. Anyway, Caroline Chisholm and Maitland.